Hey, I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and please hit like. And here I'm doing the assembly of a platform balance, very vintage platform balance. In this case here, I have repivoted the lower balance staff. That was a very tricky job. I put the video up yesterday. And to repivot that, I had to drill the world's smallest hole. I think I drilled it at 0.4 millimeters. I tried to drill it at 0.3, too small, but 0.4 millimeters, and was able to stake on the piece of blued steel and then finish the pivot end of it. And you can look that video up. I'll see if I can reference that. But here we've got some measurement going on. Just making sure that the balance staff was in the right hole in the staking set so I could put the balance back on. So I had taken the balance off of this and it was friction fit. I did not believe there was a rivet on there because I couldn't see a rivet. So I punched it out and now I have to punch it back in. The good news is that the balance, there was lots of friction there to hold the balance back onto the existing staff. So in this case here, again, I just made the lower pivot for this. I say just, but it took me a couple of hours to do. And here I'm just trying to spread that, just trying to spread the rivet on the balance staff just a bit if I can. So now I've got a stump that fit perfectly, and this stump is used to measure that and center it. Use my centering stake for my staking set. And the stump, as you can see, will rest the balance on there, and this will allow me to punch on the roller table. Now the roller table I want to be 90 degrees to the arms of the balance. This is just a rule of thumb here, but it does help with the balance of the balance, if I could say it that way. So, so it's set up this way, and I'm looking through the hole in the top to make sure it's at 90 degrees. It's got to be closed because you can do some adjustments on the hairspring side if it's not, and it helps you getting a near perfect bead error on this particular clock. And here I'm lowering the stake. The stake had a crack in it to allow for the impulse jewel. And then I punched that down perfectly and all is good. So removing that, having a look at it really quickly, it's in good shape and that's on nicely. And now I have to line this up again because I'm going to use my reverso staking set here. And again, I'll be able to rest this down with the jewel facing me into the groove of the stake. And now I'm going to push on the hairspring. So here's where I made the mistake. I had already put a mark on the rim, as you can see on the left right-hand side. Now on the left-hand side, or facing left about 7 or 8 o'clock, I'd put a mark there, but I disregarded the mark and I pressed down the hairspring thinking that it should be opposite to where the impulse jewel was, and I was wrong. So but I pressed it down here and in fitting the whole thing, and you'll see the fitment and everything else, and I had to do a correction. So here I'm just making sure it's aligned properly with the stake, that it's not off to one side or another, and you just tap very lightly on the stake for the hairspring collet to go into position. So those are just slight taps on there, and then it's in position. All right, now that I've done that, I'm removing the cap jewel, and it's in a setting, jewel setting, and this is for the lower part of the escapement assembly. The escapement wheel is there. So, and I'm using my tool again to pinch the screw to place the screw in, and then I tighten it up with a screwdriver. This technique actually works extremely well, and I've got a lot of those pin vices. They're kind of old school pin vices. You can use your thumb to slide up to tighten it. You'll see me do that in a second. And I'm just oiling the various jewels, the cap jewels, and then oil it and then turn it around. So I do that, put that in position like that, and the oil goes on the cap jewel itself and not on the jewel where the pivot goes through. So I'm just holding it steady while I put that in. And there we go. So get yourself a set of those vintage vices there, pin vices, handheld vices. The good thing is there's a sleeve on it, and you push the sleeve up with your thumb to grab the part, and you release it by pushing the sleeve down with your thumb. So it makes it very, very useful if you've got only one hand to use and you've got to use your other hand for something else. So here I'm just getting the other one done, and this was the one for the I think this was the one for the pallet fork, because the other one was the one for the escapement, or was it? No, the other one was for the balance staff. So this one is the one for the pallet fork. And just use the pin vise and then tighten it up by hand. And now I'm oiling the bridge here that's holding the escapement wheel and the pallet fork. And I had not realized yet that I had screwed up the direction of the hairspring. The hairspring actually had to be 180 degrees to the other side where the mark was. I made a mark. I was smart in making the mark, but for some reason I thought that the impulse jewel wouldn't be on the same side as the mark was. And it was, so I had a stupid moment there, or I just staked it on wrong. So here I'm just feeding the hairspring through the hole, and then these have a very small pin that pins that hairspring in place. You'll see the pin down below my hands on the mat. It's a tricky job, but I ended up having to do it twice, but it wasn't really a problem. I got used to doing it, so it wasn't a problem at all. So just getting that hairspring in there and then riding the hairspring over the regulator, and then rotating the regulator arm, or the regulator holding pawl to make sure that that's in place. You'll see me do that right now. So I just take that and then just turn that, and now the hairspring's inside the regulator, and all I need to do is put the pin in. Again, using that pin vise I have was excellent for holding that very small brass pin or copper pin, I think it's copper, pin in place. I found out trying to do it with my screwdriver was impossible, so just took a few moments to grab it correctly on the mat. And there's a small trench on both sides of the jaws for centering, and that allows you to center a screw or anything else you're using for watchmaking. So here now I'm able to just push that in and then release the sleeve, which just releases the jaws from whatever you're holding. And I was pushing it in a bit with a big screwdriver, and I realized, hey, don't do that. And I found myself a stake from the staking set with a flat end, and that's much safer to do it with that than a screwdriver, because if the screwdriver slips while you're doing that, you're going to ruin the hairspring, and you don't want to do that. So I just push it with the stake on the other end, and that's on another regulator arm for bead error, right? So this allows you to adjust the bead error, I believe. I think that's doable on this particular watch movement. Or is it? Maybe it's not. I think I'm dreaming, baby. I think I'm dreaming. Yeah, it's a dream I had last night, was being able to adjust bead error. So it's not possible. Anyway, it's studded in nicely, and then I realized when I lowered it, boy, what a fool I am. Put it on backwards. So I took it apart completely and then put it on the correct way. Didn't bother taping that, but I did the exact same process again. It worked perfectly, and now I'm just aligning the impulse jewel so that it's on the mouth of the pallet fork is on the right side, and the impulse jewel is in place. Now I'm not going to be able to get this tested. The gentleman who dropped this off, Paul, has the watch, and he's going to have to put this in the watch and see whether this works or not. There seems to be enough free play with this particular balance, so I think it'll work, but we'll see. I just sort of move it by hand and test it, and it seems to be free enough to work, which is nice, and that way you don't have to adjust that lower pivot that I made. So making a lower pivot is not the easiest thing to do. The hardest part is actually drilling the holes, and the steel can sometimes be very hard and not very forgiving. So I tend to go in a million times when I drill a hole so I don't break the bit off. I have broken bits off before. The previous video I made of making the balance staff is because I did break the bit off inside this. So it's not an easy job, even repivoting of something that small. I think there's only one guy that can do it up here in Canada, and that's me. So I live in Ottawa, Canada, and people tend to come to me with these wonderful jobs where I have to drill holes. It's kind of funny. Anyway, thanks for watching my video, and I'll catch you next time.